Let's get started with the 4 main components that you need in order to execute a successful hack remotely. For hacking to happen, for you to be able to hack a system remotely, you need these 4 main components. The first one is the IP address of the system you want to break into. Second one, you want a running exposed service on that IP address or on that machine. Third, you want a vulnerability on that service that you can take advantage of. And 4, you need an exploit that will help you to take advantage of that vulnerability and that will give you a remote control over the system. So let's get started with the first one. What's an Internet Protocol address, or known more commonly as an IP address? We just said that the Internet is this big global network of connected computers. These computers can be connected through cables, satellites, radio, etc. For these computers to talk to each other, they each require a unique address. Think of it this way. If somebody wants to send you mail, they would need certain criteria such as your name, your street address, your city, your postcode, and so on. And the same goes for computers who are on any network. For any computer to talk to another computer, it would need its IP address. So put simply, an IP address is a unique address for every computer on a network, be it a network at home, in the school, or the internet, because we just said that the internet is this big, massive network. So the IP address is a unique address of every computer, and it does have a specific form. The form is number, dot, number, dot, number, dot, number. And the number could be anything from 1 to 255. Let's take the example of these 2 computers on the network. On one side, we have a computer with the IP address of 192.168.1.111. And on the other side, we have another computer with the address of 192.168.1.112. These are the IP addresses that are associated with these 2 different computers. And these are the IP addresses that these computers use when they want to talk and communicate with each other. So if, for example, the computer at 192.168.1.111 wants to talk to the computer at 112, the source of the communication will be .111 and the destination will be the computer at .112. When we get a reply, things will be in reverse. So when the second computer now is responding, the source now will be the computer at .112 and the destination will be the computer at .111. Keep that in mind because it will come in handy when we start looking at network traffic. So how do I know what my IP address is? Let us open the command prompt on your Kali machine. The command prompt is a small piece of software that allows you to interact directly with the operating system and run commands. So instead of using the graphical interface, you can type commands here that Linux will interpret and will give you the output directly. The command we're going to be using is ifconfig. This is the command that displays the IP address of your machine. The equivalent for this on Windows is ipconfig. And as you can see, this is my IP address. Keep in mind that if you're following along with this exercise, you will have a different IP address. This is my IP address that you see on the screen. Yours is very likely to be something different. And if you're doing the exercise on another day, you might actually get another IP address because depending on your network configuration, these IP addresses might change often. Great, so now I know what my IP address is, but I don't want to hack myself. What if I'm targeting a system on the internet and I want to know what the IP address of that system is? How do I know that? The easiest way to do this is to use the ping utility. Ping is a small piece of software that sends packets to a remote system and waits for a response. It's a diagnostic tool that is mostly used to check if another system is alive or not and if it's responsive or not. So what we're doing here is we're typing ping google.com. Assuming that, for example, we're targeting Google. Obviously, we're not, but just for the sake of this exercise, let's do ping google.com. With Linux, I need to specify the number of packets I want to send, otherwise the ping command will go on forever. So to do that, I'm going to specify the count -c to be 3. And we immediately start to see the responses coming back. So even though this utility or this program allows us to ping Google and make sure that the server on Google is live and it's responsive and it's well, it also reveals the IP address of Google. Please keep in mind though that when you do this exercise, you might get a different IP than from the one that you're seeing on the screen, because Google has different servers lying around the entire world and you will get a response from the server closest to you. So if this is the IP address of Google, in theory, that means that if I now open my browser and I paste that IP address in my browser, I should be able to access the Google's homepage. So let's see if that works. Here we go. As you can see, I can now access the Google page. So here's your mission for this section. Identify your own IP address. Like I did in the exercise using the ifconfig command, or if you prefer to do it on Windows, use the ipconfig command. Identify your IP address. Then identify the IP address of Google that you see. I am being redirected to the Google page that is closest to me. In your country, you might be, instead of being redirected to google.ae or .com, you might, for example, be redirected to google.fr or whatever is relevant to your country. So you are going to get a different IP and a different Google page. So try that out, see what IP address do you get, and compare it to the one you saw on the screen.